Today's workshop is going to be on interviewing skills. Interviewing is one of those things, the more you do it, the better you're actually going to get. This is why we offer the mock interviews through the CMC, because we want you to practice. So what we want to do today is I want to increase your knowledge, increase your skills and abilities, your confidence, and of course, chances of interview success. At the same time, we want to reduce the stress, anxiety, and uncertainty that comes with doing an interview. As with anything and everything, preparation is the key to success. I really like Alexander Graham Bell's quote here: before anything else, preparation is key to success. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. So keep that in mind. First things first, we want to look at what is known as your elevator pitch. This is a 20 to 30-second summary where you introduce yourself to someone either at a networking event, a career fair, or in this case, an interview. When you start preparing your elevator pitch, I want you to take and actually write this out. Write like you're going to talk, using your normal talking. Don't try to make it something that it's not. And the reason I want you to write this out is because that gives you a basis to start practicing. And you practice over and over and over again. Practice in front of the mirror. Record yourself doing it. Practice it with your friends. Get their impression. But you want to get that down so that when the first question comes, and a lot of times that first question is going to be, so tell me about yourself. You're prepared to be able to do that. This describes who you are, what you have to offer, what value you bring to them, and what you're looking for. You want to be aspirational. You want to talk about where you want to go and what you want to do. So it needs to be original, short yet informative. You want to exude confidence. You want to go in there and show them, hey, I can do this. You want to be interesting. You want to leave some room for questions. You want to be conversational. The entire interview is best if it is conversational. Guys, no cheese. They don't care how many cats you have. They don't care a lot of those detail type stuff. Get to the point. Again, you've got 20 to 30 seconds to really sell yourself. So when you're building your elevator pitch, make sure that you mention your name, where you're from, what year are you in school, your major, and the university that you're attending. Now, obviously, this is going to be, you're in grad school at Rawls College of Business, Texas Tech University, but you want to mention that to them so that they get a clear picture there. Any relevant credentials. What I'm meaning by that is if you've held leadership responsibilities in any organization, talk about them. Bring those kinds of things up. Any relevant experience or extracurricular activities. This does interest them, and so you want to bring that up, again, without going into too much of a tremendous detail for them. What are your interests? Why are you going into this area? What is it about this particular position that really excites you? Any other passions that you may have, especially if you can relate them back to the job. Here's some more preparation that you want to take care of. You want to make sure that you prepare questions to ask the interviewer. We'll talk about that some more a little bit later on. You also want to review some commonly asked interview questions so that you're prepared when those come up. You need to know your product. The product, of course, is you. You are selling what you bring to the table. You want them to be so impressed with you that they're willing to say, yeah, we want you on board. Arrive early. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on, but one of the things, if you're going to be out of town, you want to map out exactly where you're going, how long it's going to take you to get there, all of those kinds of things. Dress for success. Find out the names and job titles of the people that are interviewing you. Most likely, this will be as a group or a panel of people that will be interviewing you, anywhere from 3 to 5. It's always an odd number because that way, if they come to a tie, then that odd number can help break that tie. So find out the names and positions of them. Several reasons why that's important. Number one, you want to be able to look at their background, find out where they're from. You may have some kind of a connection. You may find out you grew up in the same town. You never know. And it's also good to be able to use their name as you're talking to them in the interview. That way it's much more conversational and much more personal. Develop a list of references to leave with the interviewer if asked. Now, if they don't ask, don't offer it. But a lot of times they will ask for that, and it always impresses them if you were able to say, yeah, here's my list of references. You also want to make sure that you take with you a padfolio, something to take notes on and with. Because if you're taking notes, they realize, oh, okay, this person really is interested in this position, interested in this company. And you can refer back to those kinds of things when you write your thank you notes. We'll get into more of that a little later. You want to research the company. You want to visit their website, learn what their mission statement is. Every company is going to have a mission statement. I can guarantee you they have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort putting that mission statement together. I sat on a committee one time that was developing a mission statement for a community college. Now, if you want to see some confusion, have several English professors sit on that committee and try to come up with the correct statement. It was quite humorous and frustrating at the same time. But they have spent a lot of time doing that. It means something. So learn that mission statement. Learn the company's lingo. If they have certain terminology for different things, learn it. You don't want to try to show off and be all that, but you want to be able to talk their language. You want to search websites such as Glassdoor or Indeed. That will help you be able to learn more about them as well. They may have a YouTube channel. Check it out. Study the job description. In fact, I would suggest that you even print off the job description so that you can take that with you and even be referring back to that during the conversation, and even highlight some of the things that maybe you have questions about or concerns about, or want to point out how you can fill some of those roles. But really study that job description. Here's some commonly asked questions that interviewers are going to use. Tell me about a time when you led a team, when you led a group, when you did this or did that. So be prepared to think through some of those. What would you do if? What would you do if you discovered that the company you're working for or your supervisor was doing something that was illegal or unethical? Make sure that you're ready to think through those. What do you know about our company? Well, if you've done your research, you can answer that question very easily and very quickly. How did you handle? I'm going to toss a scenario at you and say, how did you handle it when you were faced with this? I always love this one. Why should we hire you? This is an opportunity for you to be able to come in and really show your confidence, really show what you bring to the table. You need to hire me because I can do this, this, and this. Your job description talks about this area and this area, and here's the experiences that I've had in those areas. What type of work environment do you prefer? Now, they're not asking, well, do you like a lot of sun? Do you like windows? Do you like it cool? Do you like it warm? They're not talking about that. They're talking about how you interact with the people that are around you. Do you come in to your office, sit down at your computer, put your head down and go to work? Or are you going to come in and want to have more people around you, be more extroverted? So be prepared for that. Mentioned dress for success a little earlier. I'm going to deal with the ladies first. The number one error that women make with professional dress is it's too tight or showing too much skin. You're not going out on the town. This is a professional interview, so make sure that you dress appropriately. Your accessories should be something fairly simple, maybe some stud earrings, no perfume ever. And I've had students ask me, well, don't you want to smell good when you go in there? Well, yes. But what happens if one of the interviewers happens to be allergic to perfume? I have had students come into my office to do mock interviews, and they had so much perfume on, and I'm not generally prone to being allergic to that, but my nose was itching, my eyes were watering. It was just overwhelming. So, best rule on that, no perfume. Your shirt should be a very conservative blouse. Light blue and white, you can never go wrong with that. You want to make sure it's a pantsuit, skirt suit, or dress suit. Those are all good options. Shoes, the heels should be no more than 3 inches. 3 inches or less, solid conservative color, and closed-toed. I know that's getting real picky, but trust me, those are things that people pay attention to, and they notice with that, and for some reason, they have a tendency to pass judgment based on that. You just want to be careful with those. Men, make sure that you're well-groomed, fairly fresh haircut. You don't want a haircut the day before, maybe a week before, because you don't want it to look like, oh, you've been out in the sun a lot and you just got a haircut. You can tell. So it needs to be neat. Make sure that you're clean shaven, conservative tie, shoes and belt match. Again, accessories, very simple, maybe a watch, lapel pin, tie clip, those kinds of things. No earrings, no necklaces, no cologne either. Same thing for the women. No cologne. People may be allergic to it. Shirt, white or light blue. Your suit should be navy blue, charcoal, or black. Socks that match the suit. Now, I do know that the trend recently has been have some kind of colorful standout socks, and that's not too bad as long as it's not too crazy. Talked a little bit earlier about arriving early. This is vital, guys, because if you arrive late, you're going to be forgotten. I can guarantee you. You want to make sure that you build in enough time so that you're not just getting there on time. You want to get there at least 10 minutes early. There's an old saying, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And the reason for that is what happens if you run into traffic, or what happens if you have a flat, or you run out of gas, or something like that takes place. You want to build in enough time to make sure that even if those things happen, you're still on time. All right, now let's dissect your story. You're going to be looking for competencies, skills, functions, experiences, abilities. Make sure that you weave those transferable skills that we've talked about in the past in this. Your problem-solving skills, your detail orientation skills, your organizational abilities, those kinds of things. I want to think through some of the situations and tasks that you've done. What was the activity? What were you assigned to do and complete? What action steps did you take? Don't be overly detailed, but you want to be able to point out some actions that you maybe also considered. Now, anytime that you come in and you're starting to discuss these kinds of things, you don't want to go into too much detail. You want to give enough. If they have questions, let them ask. I remember one interview that I was involved with, and I've sat on both sides of the table. I have interviewed and I have been interviewed many times. One particular panel that I was on for an interview, there were 5 of us, and we were going to go around and each ask a specific question. I happened to be, on that day, the very last in line. But we were each going to ask about 3 questions. When it finally came my turn, the person that we had been interviewed, or we were interviewing, had gone on and on and on, and all of us were just getting worn out. So when it finally came my turn, I skipped to the very last question and asked that. We dismissed the person and gave a big sigh of relief. One of the ladies that I was on the panel with put her head down on the table and she said, "Oh my God, we asked you what time it was, not how do you build a watch." So you want to be careful with that. You don't want to go on and on in too much detail. Think also about the results of your action. What was the outcome? What feedback did you receive? Was there anything that you would have liked to have changed? What was the benefit to the organization itself? Connect these skills with what you can bring to the employer as value. What do you do if you are at a complete loss for words? It happens. Now, keep in mind also, interviewers understand and know these are stressful situations. So if you're at a complete loss for words, stall for time a little bit. Ask to have the question repeated or repeat it yourself. Sometimes just those few seconds can kind of help fill that dead space so that you don't feel, oh no, they're sitting there just staring at me. The other thing is you can ask for clarification. Get them to kind of give you a little bit more detail of what they're looking for. In a gracious manner, say something to the effect of, "We come back to this question a little later. I'm kind of at a loss at the moment." Nothing wrong with that. If later you still don't have an answer, this is kind of as a last resort, but would it be possible for me to follow up later on today with an email? Give you an answer for that. Make sure that you follow up if you get to that point. The other thing is, guys, have some fun. This is, yes, it's stressful, but it can also be very enjoyable if you've made a good connection with the people that you're interviewing with. Show your personality. I think you guys all have personality. So make sure that you show that. Let them see who you are. They know you're going to be nervous. And believe me, they know these are hard questions. Also, not looking for perfection, but they're looking to be impressed. They do want to be impressed by what you have to offer. Be interesting and leave an impression. So I can guarantee you, the first things they're going to say is, do you have any questions for us? Oh, no. Well, write that one off. Because if you're not interested enough to have questions for them, then they're probably not going to be interested in you. Some of the typical questions that you can ask. Can you describe a typical day for someone in this position? What do you think are the most important qualities for someone to excel in this role? What do you expect of the person in this role in the first 30 to 60 days? Where do you think the company is headed in the next 5 years? And that is a very important question right now, because with our current situation, you never know. If the company is really struggling, you want to know that. If they feel like, you know what, we've got a handle on this, we're good, then you want to know that as well. Who do you consider your top competitor? Why? What are the biggest challenges facing the company? One of the things that you can do also is just Google good questions to ask in an interview and look at the questions for the person being interviewed. Now, this is what I tell students all the time. When you walk in there, you've got your portfolio and you've got your notes and all of that, have a list of about 10 to 15 different questions. I know that sounds like a lot, but what happens if, let's say you've got 3 questions ready and those 3 questions are answered during the course of the interview? What are you going to do then? You're not going to have any more questions. You're not going to ask all 10 to 15. You're going to ask 3, maybe 4 at the most. But you want to have a good list, because you don't want to be flat-footed and say, "Oh no, I don't have any questions." You want to show them that you're prepared. I've gone into an interview where I had 2 pages of questions, and when it was my turn to ask, I flipped through there, and from the basis of the interview itself, I went through and found some that I felt like, yeah, this is one I really want to ask. So be prepared. What do you like best about working here? Always like that question to ask people. I remember one interview that I was in, and there were 5 people that were interviewing me. And when I came to that question, I made sure that every person answered that question for me. What's the best thing about working here? And I went around that table and got answers from them. Because remember, this is a two-way street. Get into more of that here in a second. So, close the deal. Use this opportunity to thank the employer for an interview. Just to have that opportunity to interview is a big deal. Let them know you're excited about the possibility of the future with the company. Don't sound desperate. You don't want to ever come across as desperate. Ask, what are the next steps? And remember, the last impression is almost as important as the first. Follow up. Send them a thank you note or a thank you email within 48 hours of the interview. Now, today's environment, it's hard to hand deliver a thank you note. I actually prefer those, but if you're being interviewed by Zoom or by Skype, then that's kind of hard to do. But you can always find their email and send them an email, or find a actual mailing address and send it that way. Always handwritten when you actually send one through the mail. But it should be within 48 hours. When I've talked to recruiters, they say, you know, we don't expect thank you notes, but boy, we're impressed when we get them. Reiterate your excitement and desire to get the job. But again, don't sound desperate. Some don'ts. These are big. Don't chew gum. Don't bring your cell phone. Leave it in your car. Turn it off. Leave it someplace else. Don't run the risk of somebody calling you or texting you right in the middle of it. Does not make a good impression. You can do without your cell phone for just a little while. Again, don't appear desperate. Don't ever trash former employers or supervisors, because they're going to look at you and go, he's trashing his former boss. She's trashing her former boss. What are they going to say about me if we run against each other? Never lie. Ever. Never answer a question with a simple yes or no. Don't bring up personal issues such as medical or family problems. Don't inquire about salary or benefits. This is not the time or the place to bring that up. Ever bring that up in the first interview. Now, if the company brings it up, that's their choice, and you better be prepared to provide an answer. The answer is never a specific number. Do your research before you go in. Look into project manager for Dallas in these specific job positions. Get a range. And if they come in and say, well, what salary are you expecting? Your answer should always be, I would expect somewhere between 65 and 70,000 is what I'm looking for. That way you're not trying to get nailed down. Don't use curse words or slang terminology. Turns people off. Keep your likes and uns to yourself. Practice not using them. Remember, the interview is a two-way street here. You are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will be glad to answer them. And don't hesitate to set up the mock interviews. Thank you.